Hey guys, this is Amy. Welcome to Gluten-Free for All, and let's get into the video. Okay guys, so today we're going to be making gluten-free pizza that's also lactose-free and awesome, and requested by the chat of one of our streams. Or possibly multiple streams. The crusts I have already put in the oven. Basically what I do with these is I unwrap them, and to crisp the bottom up so that they don't fall apart, I put them bottom side up under the broiler on high for like 2 minutes, and then I take them out and put them on a cookie sheet with sprayed tinfoil. These are the pizza crusts. So they're cauliflower, just the plain crusts, because we're obviously making them ourselves. So, you know, the other versions of this brand are ready-made pizzas, which is why I make that distinction. Okay, so our oven is set to 425. Because obviously I changed it over from the broiler setting. I put these now bottom side down. And we can start. What I've got here for our toppings is the steak that people requested as a topping. Oregano, because I like it on pizza. Green peppers, mushrooms. I just got white mushrooms, sweet onion. This is Casaro brand. I usually get the Belgioso, but they're basically the same. It's the Italian 4-cheese blend. It has Asiago, Parmesan, Romano, and Provolone. So you're good on the lactose on those cheeses because they're nice and sharp, okay? And we've got garlic, minced garlic, because I'm not cooking if it doesn't have garlic in it, basically. So we're going to start with the garlic. I like a lot of garlic, so I'll put a lot on here. But basically I'm just using a regular spoon and just kind of spreading it around on these crusts till it looks good to me. But I'm using like a half of one of these for each, or two halves, so basically a whole one of these spoons for each of them, and then just kind of spreading it out. Then I'll probably do the oregano first before the sauce. I like a lot of oregano too. But of course it's all up to you and what your preference is. You don't even have to use oregano if you don't like it. But I do like a lot of it. And actually it's not coming out of there very well, so I'm going to put it on the like larger opening setting here. That way we get a decent amount on there. Next, we've got our crushed tomatoes with basil from Tutto Rosso. This is the no salt added, which is what I prefer just because pizza usually ends up with a lot of salt content to it. This one's pretty great because it's non-BPA liner and it's non-GMO, which is also things I love. But I don't use sauce. I use crushed tomatoes with basil. This is great because it doesn't give us heartburn. Heartburn is a huge problem for those of us who are lactose and gluten-free. So this doesn't give us heartburn, so this is what I use. And for this, I like a lot of sauce too, but for this, I'm putting like 3 of the large tablespoons on here, and then I'll spread that around. 3 is a more conservative amount, like what most people would enjoy. So maybe if you like a little bit less sauce than what you would think is typical, you would do like 2 spoons or 2.5 spoons. And maybe you wouldn't have to put the crusts in the oven under the broiler first. I do that because they tend to fall apart otherwise, but if you're using less sauce, maybe it doesn't do that, and you can sort of guess and test that, I suppose, if you prefer less sauce. But as we like sauce, a lot of sauce, I didn't put quite as much on there as I normally would, because I was trying to do an amount that would be reasonable for most people. So next, we're going to do the cheese. I kind of talked about the cheese already. So the thing with this cheese is you're going to need a little bit more of it than a mozzarella cheese, because a mozzarella cheese is really going to spread out and melt and get take up a lot of space and get stringy when you pull it apart and eat it. This cheese isn't going to do that because this is sharper cheese, which is what makes it good for lactose-free people. So you really want to sort of pack it on more densely, if that makes sense, than you typically would for mozzarella cheese. But it's looking like I'm kind of running out of this, so I might have to bolster it with... I don't have more of the 4 cheese blend, but I do have just plain Parmesan that's shredded, so I'll bolster it with that. Okay, so these look ready for our toppings. What should I start with? Well, the steak is going on last because the steak needs to be sauteed in a pan very quickly first before we top the pizza with it. So we're going to put on all the veggies. So we'll start with the green peppers because those take up a lot of space. So I'll put other stuff on top of that. I could have also tried to saute the onions or saute the peppers first. I prefer more of a raw onion kind of taste on something like a pizza, as opposed to like a sort of caramelized type of onion on a pizza. But, you know, of course they're getting a little bit cooked this way. The peppers, I don't know, they're pretty hardy, these particular peppers that I cut up. So I'm wondering just how, that piece is a little big, just how easy it's going to be for these to soften. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm going to take out some of these bigger pieces and try to replace them with smaller ones to kind of help that process a little bit. Maybe break a couple of them in half. I'm just a little afraid it's going to be a little too raw. We don't want raw, right? So, I mean, raw peppers are delicious when you're like dipping them in dip or something, right? But on a pizza, not so much. So, I'll break some of these pieces up. I didn't quite chop them small enough there. Okay, a couple more. All right, so now that the peppers are done, we'll do onions. Now I'm using sweet onions or Vidalia onions because, again, what I'm trying to do is alleviate a heartburn situation for those of us with sensitive stomachs. And what I find helps when it comes to having to eat onions is that this is the only kind I buy. Because otherwise they tend to be very acidic. So I don't get yellow onions or Spanish onions or white onions. I only get Vidalia or red onions because those are also pretty sweet onions and they're kind of light on the acid. Okay, there's that. And the mushrooms. Now, I'm going to put the mushrooms on one pizza because I am making these pizzas for both myself and my husband. And my husband hates mushrooms. So, some of these pieces are kind of big too. I was slacking a little bit with this cutting. There we go. So, I like mushrooms, and I don't eat them very frequently because my husband doesn't like them. So, when I get the chance, I eat them. Alright, so there's that. And we will cut for a little while for me to get these pieces of beef sauteed nicely so that we can top the pizza and get it in the oven. Okay, so we've sauteed the steak. Now I bought steak that was very thinly sliced to begin with, and then I cut it into small strips. So that's what those kind of look like. And I added a little bit of black pepper to this just to give it some flavor. And so now I can just start putting it on the pizza, I guess. Now, steak is not a typical pizza topping for me, but it was per request by the chat. So I will shout out Erica and Marcus, and I'm sure there are a bunch of other people who were there in chat that night as well, who put in their 2 cents. Jayanna. Spread this out a little better. And of course, Emilio was the main person who suggested these toppings and suggested that we do the video in the first place. So, big thank you to Emilio. And we're gonna get this in the oven. I spread these out the best I could. I think they're pretty even, but we'll see. Hopefully they look good. Alright, so I'm putting these in 425 for 30 minutes. I do 25 and then check on them. Center rack, obviously. So I'm going to set it for 25 minutes. I'll check on it, and then if it needs a few more, I'll put it in a few more. Whew! Fogged up my glasses. Oh, that looks amazing. Wow! Whoa, those mushrooms really shrank. I should have put more on. That looks incredible. I am so looking forward to eating this. Okay, so what do you think, guys? Did they come out good? I think they look pretty amazing, but I guess I'll have to taste them and find out. Alright. I'm just using a steak knife to cut this, and I've got a broken piece in my hand. So that'll work. Just trim the cheese here. 2 pieces of steak on this piece. Yeah. All right. Okay. Taste test. Alright, I got some steak in that piece, but I'm going to try to take a bite from over here where there's onion and pepper. Very good. So again, I'm going to shout out people from chat. This is a great pizza. Green peppers, onions, mushrooms, and steak on a cauliflower crust. Thanks for joining me in celebrating your gluten freedom. Leave your thoughts in the comments section for me below. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell to get notified of new videos. If you'd like to see more of us here at the Geek for All family of channels, check the description box down below. I'm Amy, and thanks so much for watching.